So anyway, um, I got interrupted there. Um, yeah, so you can't, as a Christian, there's no way you can believe in a fear-based system. It's just not. And it doesn't lead to anything. Fear doesn't. It might lead to order, like I said before. It might lead to an apparent order, but it doesn't lead to long-term development. And that's what we want. We want evolution. We want people to, take responsibility for their lives, to be free to act the way they want to act, with, limited repercussions. Of course, there's going to be repercussions. But so what we should strive for, but, all of a sudden in a society, what would happen, if you liberate everyone from the jails, right? Like, everyone, I've had people say that too, like, it just wouldn't work either, right? But after, it's just like a dog who's been beaten for years and years and has been, mistreated. How do you treat a dog like that? You have to be careful, right? You can't just all of a sudden, let them go wild in your yard. So you just take precautionary steps, but it's all towards healing. It's a healing process. So what do we have to do to jails? We have to make jail conditions better. They have to be institutions of learning, comfortable jails. They have to be, everything. Of course, first the mentality has to change of the people, not from fear-based to, whatever the other side you want to call it. But, everything has to change in that regard. It's all about it's all about justice, you know. And so there's a lot of people who don't believe that. They believe in, mano dura, which is like, the rod, right? You got to teach them by the rod. And I think we've come a long way in teaching kids, and in a micro on a micro level. I think we've come a long way in liberating ourselves from the fear of violence. There's a lot of literature on like codependency, on domestic violence, on and we've liberated ourselves in a sense of that, in a sense, right? But so we have come a long way, but why doesn't that same mentality apply on a macro scale? Why are we still incarcerating people on a massive level, millions of people, and just making them worse and worse? Because these jails are horrible places where no one ever gets better. Fear-based, everything's getting more and more militarized, on a police level, on things like that. So it just amazes me that people separate like culture and religion. They separate what's acceptable culturally, like the way the justice system is in our society, but then they have their religion on this, on the other side. And it's hard for them to combine everything. Like, it's hard for people to combine their politics and their religion. And that's what we have to do. Your religion, your beliefs have to encompass everything in your life, not just a section, not just a segment. Like, your spiritual beliefs have to encompass everything that you do, everything that, everything in your life. Your political views, your views of your family, how to, upbring your children, how to treat people, everything. It has to encompass everything. You have to live by your beliefs on a daily basis, on an hourly, minute by minute basis. It's just a continuous work, and reinforcement. And so that's just a little thought today. So just like the dog who's been beaten, right, for years and years, eventually the healing process will work, though. You care for the dog, you're careful that he won't bite you. You might have him in a harness for a while. You might, have him in a kennel for a while, you know, but you care for him. You show him love, you show him respect, you take him out, you do good things for him, you treat him with care and with kindness, you show him social, you know, other dogs, you have him, you feed him, you know, you do everything. And we have to do the same people with the most marginalized people in our society, we have to do that for. But people always say, well, if you do that, everyone's just gonna, you know, go to jail. They'll want to go to jail and they'll just want to feed off society and become, and it's quite the opposite. Now people are doing that. Now people are doing that, and now they're victims. In this fear-based society, that's what happens. People don't take responsibility for their lives. They live in fear. They start rebelling against the society they don't believe in. And then they try and take advantage of the system, right? I mean, that's what happens now. We have over 50 million people on food stamps in the US right now. Like, that's crazy, man. There's 300 million people, 50 million. Like, that's ridiculous. Even more, I think it's like 70 million now or something. But anyway, so that's what's happening now. That's not what will happen if we change this approach. It's quite the opposite, because when you start gaining freedom, and when you start gaining life, and start gaining light, and you start gaining, you know, motivation and the will to live and the will to do something productive with your life, you don't want that. You don't want to feed off the system. Quite the opposite. You want to produce something for yourself. You want to be something. You want to do something. And so that's what we're trying to instill. You know, it's not punishment. It's not fear-based punishment, because that doesn't lead to anything. It might create order on the surface, but it doesn't lead to long-term progress. It doesn't lead to that. It's just like kids, you know. If you whip your kids every day, they're going to be well-behaved. They're going to be super well-behaved. You know, they're not going to move a peep. You're going to go out in public. Wow, these kids are awesome. They're super well-behaved. But when it comes time, they're going to start rebelling. They're going to start misbehaving. They're going to have a lot of traumas, issues. They're not going to have self-reliance because they never had the chance to be self-reliant. Same thing with macro societies. So we got to get off the whole man system of justice. It's a failure. It's a complete failure. It's a complete failure. Fear-based systems are a complete failure. And it takes more work to have a system where we control deviance in a different type of way that's a healing-based system than a fear-based system. It takes a lot more work. It's a lot easier to create behavioral changes through violence than through other means, but it's not the right way. So let's get off it, people. Later.